and we're almost out of summer. And
What do you mean, thank goodness?
what are you talking about? Summer sucks.
No, it doesn't.
It's
That's 100% false.
okay. You talk to people who are in every other state except for where you are. It's because you can climb. Fall's better.
Yeah.
Fall is better.
Debatable, but yeah, we're going to be talking about not seasons, Overland Trail Tour. I just
Exactly.
went on a trip from St. George, Utah to Flagstaff, Arizona to go check out Overland Expo West in Flagstaff, which was crazy cool. You've been to past Overland Expo events,
Several, yeah.
so you know how it goes. There's just tons and tons of vehicles there. It's really easy to get lost.
The cool part about this is that he did it in a very unique way. He actually hooked up with the overlanding people and went quite a bit off-road, not entirely, but a majority of it off-road in several different vehicles leading up to the expo. So what I'd wanted to do while we're answering questions is ask you about the vehicles you drove, your
Yeah, for
experiences
sure.
with those, and then we'll lead up to what you actually did at Expo. But before you do, I wanted to let people know years ago, about 3 years ago I think it was, 4, I drove Andre's Hummer H2 from Boulder to Flagstaff, and I had a terrible experience. That thing got the worst gas mileage on the planet. It actually almost baked my credit card. And it was really, really windy. Did you have a lot of wind when you were doing it?
No, actually, the Overland Trail Tour could not have been more balmy, beautiful, perfect weather, great scenery. So a little bit of backstory on what the Overland Trail Tour was, is it was part of the Overland Expo event. So Overland Expo actually put on this drive, invited some of us media folk out there to drive a couple different vehicles that were representing the event, and got to see some really cool stuff on our way there.
So my experience is completely different than yours because I just drove on highways, got crap mileage, ate really bad food, and slept in a motel, and then got there. You went off-road a lot, and when I say off-road, I'm not saying super hard
very
stuff.
light off-roading.
Light off-roading, but the vehicles you did it in were interesting because it was a bit of a variety. So before we get started, Zach, is there any questions in the queue?
Just from some folks who come in and ask, is this live show? Just want to confirm, yes, we are live.
We are live.
We are live, and hopefully you guys are too.
Oh,
so,
we got $5 from I am Dr.
Oh.
Remulak.
thank you.
Thank you,
Remulak.
Dr. Remulak.
That's really cool.
He said he's interested in a 22 Wrangler and just found out about the new Recon package that's going to be available. He's asking if we can get one and test it with the factory 35s. That sounds good to me.
I think that that's a very good chance that we will be driving one of those either at an event or getting our hands on one here at TFL. We have a pretty good relationship with Stellantis, and hopefully we'll be able to get our hands on one. Right now we're working on doing a lot of off-roading stuff leading into winter, so fall's sort of our last chance to really get out there.
Yep.
Even this week, they're saying that it might snow.
Well, it's already snowed up in the high country.
In the high country. We're in the medium country here, so
Yeah.
if it and even if it snows, we still drive, we still do stuff, but it's a little bit different with off-roading. So hopefully we'll be able to get a few more serious off-roaders in before winter actually kicks in here. So let's talk about your first off-road vehicle that you drove, which I believe was the Subaru.
Well, the first one that I drove on the whole trip was actually a kitted out Mercedes Sprinter van.
Okay.
This one was built by a company called Field Van. There's a lot of companies that build out Sprinters. And yeah, I mean, really, regardless of who is building it out, they're going to off-road relatively similar. When I was driving it, we were going up kind of a steep-ish gravel hill with one small rock step, maybe a little less than a foot tall. And yeah, I mean, it didn't really slip a wheel much. It wasn't too bad.
Let's
They're
talk about
kinda heavy.
Yeah, I was curious about the van itself. So obviously we all know what it's.
Hang on a second. Case, can you do me a favor? Make sure your mic's firmly plugged in.
Yeah, I'm going to set it next to me.
Sorry. Yeah, guys, it kind of comes loose sometimes. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Can you guys hear us now? Let us know if there's any more sound issues on your end. So I wanted to know about the van itself. So what makes it unique?
I mean, this particular one was kitted out with all the things that we've kind of come to expect from these built-out adventure vans. So it had a bed setup. It had a pop-up tent setup so that you could sleep above your kitchen and everything, induction stove, all of that, running water, obviously, sink.
Bathroom?
This one didn't have a bathroom just because the bathrooms take up a lot of space.
Yeah.
But Field Vans, they can kit out your van however you want to do it. But for the actual off-roading, there were definitely some sections where the trees encroached on the trail a little bit, and so the top of the van was rubbing because it's a big vehicle.
Very,
And
very,
of
very
course,
tall, right? Yeah.
Since it's pretty heavy on some of the steeper, loose gravel hills, it definitely struggled a bit with traction.
Okay, so after that van, what did you drive?
After that van, the next vehicle that I think I drove was a Gladiator on 37s, which the entire time I drove it, didn't have to take it out of two-wheel drive. I mean, it was built to the hilt, and yeah, did not need any assistance.
Okay, so was that a diesel, gas? What was that one?
It was just a regular Pentastar.
Okay.
But
It's a funny thing because with the overlanding and these guys that spend the fortune, you would think that everything would be a diesel. I would make it a diesel because you get the range, you get the extra torque.
yeah,
You know, well, you're a diesel guy, you understand.
yeah, I like diesel.
Yeah, yeah, you do. For those of you who don't know, he has a 2004 Ram.
1994.
1994. Jesus.
Yeah, I got a 5-speed 12-valve Cummins Ram, which is pretty fun. And I've got actually a camping setup in the back of it. So one could call it an Overlander.
It's
but
highly modified, by the way.
I'm not so trendy.
Oh, hey, check it out. We got another donation here.
Oh yeah, look at that, from 4915002.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
for
you
your
very
donation. We
much.
appreciate that. Thanks. So is there a question that's attached to that?
No, nothing in particular.
Thank you very much for your donation. So go on about the Gladiator.
I mean, the Gladiator, it was just too good,
Okay.
basically. We didn't get to put it
Didn't
to the
struggle
test,
with
really.
it,
But
yeah.
two of the more interesting vehicles to drive on this particular kind of trail were the Ridgeline and the Subaru Outback Wilderness, because both of those aren't vehicles that you expect to see way off the beaten path in the middle of nowhere. We ended up camping one night at a place called Marble Canyon, where there is just this incredible backdrop. It's pretty near the Grand Canyon, and it's an unbelievably beautiful spot and pretty remote. So the fact that both the Ridgeline and the Outback Wilderness were able to get out there with no hiccups was pretty impressive.
Now these vehicles, how long was the trek altogether, the off-road trek, would you say?
I mean, we started driving on Tuesday and we got to Flagstaff on Thursday. Parts of the trip were on highway, but yeah, it was a couple hundred miles.
Gas stops in between?
Yeah.
Were there any vehicles that had extra gas on them in case you guys ran out on the trail?
Yeah. The Gladiator that belonged to actually one of the guys who set up the event, he had a couple jerry cans on the back with some extra fuel, 10 gallons, but we never ended up needing it.
Yeah, I was curious about that. Actually, the Subaru has really good range. It's a fairly efficient vehicle for what it is. And let's talk about what that is. This is an Outback that has been modified, but by Subaru. So
Yeah.
it comes right out of the factory with the factory lift, beefier tires,
got a
armor,
front skid plate.
front skid plate, and some other garnish on it, really. But what did you think about driving that car? And I know you put it through some mud because we have a video on off-road. Is it on off-road?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so we have a video on off-road that he put together driving that vehicle, and it looked like it didn't really struggle at all, but
Yeah,
it also
again,
looked
I
like it
mean,
was a lot of fun.
These were very, very light trails. Also, before I forget, we've got another donation from Dan Tralmer. I'm going to go with Tralmer. Thank you very much. No question attached to that. But he's got an image of somebody flexing, and it says Boss.
Far out. Okay.
Yeah, that's probably directed to you.
I'm sure. Thank you very much for your donation. We really appreciate it. We couldn't do what we were doing here without your support. So go on about the Subaru.
Yes, so again, very, very light trails, nothing super technical, not any big rock features, and the Subaru did really well. What was nice is on some of the more rutted and rocky dirt roads, a lot of the washboard, the Subaru rode really well. The 2.4 with the turbo was nice. It was spry. It got up to speed well. It was punchy and fun. Again, it's not a phenomenal vehicle for doing really, really extreme rock crawling, but the kind of driving off-road that we were doing, it was perfect for that. And from personal experience living here in Colorado, a lot of the people that I know that are really into skiing, rock climbing, things like that, but they're not necessarily off-roaders or vehicle people at all. Most of the people like that I know end up with Subaru Outbacks because they're good in the snow. They do fine down the kinds of dirt roads that you need to go down to go to camping spots, climbing spots, whatever it is. and they can camp out in the back of them. It's practical, gives them enough room. So as an overall adventure vehicle, they're fine. I wouldn't pick it to go up a really, really extreme trail like what you would want to do in a 4Runner or a Wrangler. But yeah, for the types of things that we were doing on this trip, it was perfect.
It's an interesting thing about Subaru, and not just the Outback, but a majority of their vehicles. First of all, Colorado, one of the biggest buyers of Subaru products, and one of the largest states in the nation for Subaru products, old and new.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about everything that they build that has all-wheel drive. And so you see a lot of old Outbacks here, rusted out ones too,
Yeah.
with really good ski racks that are worth more than the car. And then they have, you know, an interesting combination of the newest ones, which we recently had, including the Crosstrek, which, you know, they do very well in the snow here, and it's perfect for this type of environment. However, when you're going off-road, I would say that you want something that has more range, you know, and perhaps something with a diesel. And that's kind of where I go back with it. You know, Subaru actually had a diesel overseas. They never brought over here. There were rumors. Yeah, well,
Really?
Outback and other vehicles that had, it was a 4-cylinder, I believe it was a 4-cylinder diesel, right, Zach?
I believe you're correct on that, but don't quote me.
I'm not quoting him,
enough
but I
for
just
us.
brought him right there. Anyway, so let's move on to the next vehicle. Now, first of all, one more thing about that Subaru, which once again, there's a video of him. Didn't you go in the back of it and like lay down?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could totally camp out back there. I've got friends who built platforms with storage underneath, slide-out drawers, and then they have their whole camping set up on the top. The Subaru that I was driving had a rooftop tent on it. The Outback Wilderness has a roof rack that can hold up to 700 pounds. So if you want to set up a rooftop tent there, that works well. I personally like sleeping either in my truck. I have a fiberglass topper with a camping setup in it, or if you have a station wagon like that, sleeping inside of it, because especially here in Colorado, if you want to camp out in your car to go skiing, having a little bit of extra insulation is nice.
It helps if you have something that keeps you warm in there too. What's up, Zach?
We got a question, actually several times over, from Ford Warthog, who asked, this is a general question, Ford Focus RS as a rally car, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's kind of low and it's got very stiff suspension, but I'm sure you could
No, but it
modify
has
to
an all-wheel drive system that's one of the best on the planet. I mean,
And 350 horsepower.
well, the RS is derived from Rallytech, directly from the UK. Those guys were the ones who actually built up other rally-based Ford Focuses and then other vehicles prior to the Ford Focus that were Ford. I mean, all that collective information comes from Rally. As such, and especially the way you can change around the diff and all that in that car, it's extraordinary, but it's a little low to the ground.
Yeah, and very, very hard suspension.
Very hard suspension. If I had it and I wanted to rally it, I'd jack it up a little bit, change the tire wheel setup, and probably remove all the crap underneath it. You know, so yes, I would agree with you, but it needs more stuff, or else you'll just tear off the chin spoiler, the side sills, and the rear.
Yeah, you don't want to rally it the way it comes out of the box.
I wouldn't recommend it personally, but
I mean, you could.
just unscrew the stuff and pull it off and lift it. Better tires, you're good to go. There you go. Anything else before we continue? We have a donation.
Yeah, we have another note from 4915002, that donator from earlier. He says, hello, my name is Ibrahim from Saudi Arabia, big fan.
Salam alaikum.
His off-roader was a 2005 Wrangler, and now he's got a 2013 Land Cruiser with a 4.6, and he's planning to buy the new GR.
The new Land Cruiser 300 series, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Oh, the 300 series. So that has the twin turbocharged V6. Oh, well done. Let us know what you think. Take pictures, do a video, send it to us. Zach, what's the address that he said send it to?
Ask at TFL Truck is a good one for that.
Ask at TFL Truck. Please send it anything if you buy it, because we're dying for information. We're not getting that vehicle here in the United States, at least not right now. We might be getting it in the form of a Lexus, or maybe they'll make a return and call it something else. Toyota took away our Land Cruiser privileges because Americans are not smart enough to buy them, or rich enough, I should say.
Yeah, exactly.
I said rich enough. I said, okay, relax.
$5,000, like I'd love to buy a Land
I would love
Cruiser,
to
but
do
I'm
as
never
well.
gonna be able to afford
Me
it.
Yeah,
neither.
they are a little expensive, but we do love a good Toyota.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a great Toyota on the Overland Trail Tour drive.
Did you drive that?
I did drive that. I ended up driving everything that was on that trip. The 4Runner that was on there was a pretty interesting, cool idea. So basically, Overland Expo built up this 4Runner in order to auction it off later on for organizations that, if I remember right, do overlanding trips to support people who are maybe not as able to do those kinds of things on
Charitable
their own.
organizations
Yeah,
to allow
exactly.
these people to go. Okay.
I forget the exact details, but Toyota provided the 4Runner, and then parts from vendors all over the expo were fitted to the truck. So it had ARB bumpers, it had lockers, it had underbody protection, roof rack, it had a rooftop tent from Alucab, KC lights all the way around. Had a Dometic fridge that slid out and dropped down.
Oh, cool.
Cool drawer system in the back, inclinometer on this device mounted to the dash, so all kinds of crazy stuff.
I believe that a lot of those vehicles also had the Onyx navigation setup coming in, who happens to be a sponsor of ours. So that vehicle, I mean, that must have been massively heavy.
Yeah, it was definitely heavy. So it was pretty slow. And it was funny because I was talking to some of the other people that were on that trip, and we were talking about, hey, what was your favorite vehicle? I said mine, and I still feel this way. My favorite was that 4Runner because very capable off-road, even though it's weighed down by all that extra equipment and it's not very fast on-road or good with fuel mileage. In Colorado, that would be a great vehicle to have because you can camp in it. It can still get anywhere you want to go. And everybody else said they disagreed because they didn't like how it drove on-road. But I wouldn't buy a vehicle like that to drive it on-road.
See, now that's an interesting thing because behind the camera, Zach would be saying, no, best vehicle ever. And you're wrong because it's his favorite vehicle. I agree with him to a certain degree. I mean, it's rock solid. But when you add all that weight to it, that's one of those trade-offs about overlanding. When a lot of you guys, you put on bumpers, you put on suspension, you put on all this extra stuff, and you make a vehicle weigh 6,000, 7,000 pounds, or originally weighed close to 5, it's going to go slow, it's going to get crap mileage, and it's not going to handle very well. So that's an important trade-off to keep in mind. And that reminds me, you drove something that actually was relatively efficient and didn't have too much weight, yet was still off-roady-ish, and that was the Honda Ridgeline.
Yeah, it was a Ridgeline Sport, which is the base model, still has all-wheel drive, 9-speed auto, not a CVT. And we've got another donation still from 491500.
Thank you so much.
You're funding this entire show.
Yeah,
that's
entire
terrific.
Show.
You've just paid for dinner. Really appreciate it. Does he have anything to say?
Yeah, he says he wishes that they had the Tacoma and the 4Runner here in Saudi Arabia, which I'm surprised that they don't.
Well, I thought you had the Hilux over there, but
we wish we had the Hilux here.
Yeah, that's a trade-off. But there's going to be changes. This is the rumor I'm hearing, is that Toyota is looking for a little bit more of an international division of their vehicles to where more people are getting their new platforms. So in other words, the Sequoia, the Tundra, even the Tacoma, they're going to be built on a similar platform, meaning that might be a worldwide platform. So the Hilux might be very similar to the Tacoma in the very near future. That's what I'm hearing. Nothing to prove it though, and Toyota will not acknowledge any of that yet. Let's continue. So you were telling me about the Honda Ridgeline S that you were driving?
Yeah, so it was a Sport with the HPD package. HPD package gets you some extra cladding. It gets you the really cool bronze goldish wheels that they have, a special grille.
Unique tires, I believe.
Yeah, they're, I think, Firestone Destination ATs. And you get a little decal on the back, which is a good looking package. The one that I was driving, besides a slight lift and then the rooftop tent and a roof rack with max tracks and an awning, those are the only modifications done to it. From the factory, I think the Ridgeline, I want to say, has 8.1 inches of ground clearance.
That sounds about right.
About 8. This lift gave it maybe almost an extra inch.
Okay.
And I did hear rocks once, and then mostly grass rubbing the bottom of the Ridgeline as we were driving on some of these more rutted roads. Nothing too serious, because again, it was a fairly light trail. But the all-wheel drive system on the Ridgeline does surprisingly well. In some of the deeper sand, when I would get heavy into the throttle, it was just straight as an arrow, had no problem putting its power down. So the all-wheel drive system on that is pretty decent. That's
the VTM4, right, Zach?
Yep, iVTM4.
iVTM4.
Right.
Damn, I always get it wrong.
That's hard to remember.
It's all those things. I actually really enjoyed driving that vehicle, and I did take it on light off-roading. And the newest one, the HBD package is really unnecessary, to be honest with you.
It is, but it looks cool.
It looks, I think some people think it looks really cool. But I really like the ride on the highway and off-road. It was like a really good riding vehicle because it's kind of like a car, like a rally car. Up, and at the same time, you're adding not a whole lot of weight to it.
Yeah.
That, to me, is a very logical starter for people who want to do light overlanding, which is also known as camping in many places.
Yeah, and that would be, because I think overlanding is a little bit of a loaded term. When people think overlander, they automatically, and fair, they go to thinking of really technical trails, getting way the hell out there where you're 1,000 miles from civilization, whatever it is. I would call the Ridgeline with the rooftop tent more of a camping vehicle.
More of a camping vehicle. So my definition of overlanding, by the way, guys, is getting to a place where one of these really doesn't work. Seriously, that's one of the things that I do. And then on top of that, you have to stay in that place for a certain period of time and then go to another place that's still off-road and then possibly another place. Staying off the grid for a period of time is really the point. And you know, guys with motorcycles could just take a little tiny tent and a backpack and go, and they're overlanding.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, there's a large motorcycle contingent at Overland.
Oh yeah, and moto camping is becoming bigger and bigger thing, which is really cool. To your point again, I would say both with the Ridgeline and the Subaru, they do well enough on most trails that you're probably going to be happy with what it does and where it's able to get you. I mean, it's always fun to get a really kitted out rig like that 4Runner and have all the toys, all the gadgets. It makes your experience more fun. You're more prepared for more situations. That's always cool, but it is also a lot of money. It becomes less drivable on the road, so you have to decide what you want to prioritize. And the other thing is, if you're going overlanding, camping, whatever you want to call it, with your friends, you're really only going to be able to do as much as the weakest link in your group of people. So if you have this kitted out 4Runner with all the stuff on it, and one of your buddies has just a regular all-wheel drive vehicle, then it doesn't really matter that you've got
because
the
you're
best
only
4Runner
going
in the
to a
world,
place that you can drag the car up
unless
to.
you leave your buddies behind.
Well,
yeah,
in my case, I would
do.
Most of my friends, just leave them behind, let them
See
fish,
ya.
whatever. Let's talk. Okay, so we talked about a few cars. Zach, we got anything before we talk about the Overland Expo itself?
Yeah, I've got a really interesting question. It came up a little bit earlier. Trying to find it again. Sorry, give me 1 second. From
Sure.
Scott Mazo,
Hey, Scott.
who asked, what off-roaders still come in a manual transmission, and why is it a dying transmission? Which is always a fun, painful question for us to answer.
Nobody in America buys them.
Yeah, right now, the take on manual transmissions for the entire automotive industry in the United States is around 4%, I believe. It may be lower now. In terms of off-roaders with manual transmissions, you have the Ford Bronco, the big one, that does have a 7-speed, which I'm dying to try, but it only comes with a few things. You can't get it fully kitted. You can get it with some stuff. Can you get the 4-door with the manual transmission? I know you can get the 2-door.
Bronco?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe so. I hope I'm right about that.
Okay. Well, anyway,
so.
I haven't driven that one yet, so I wouldn't know. Jeep, of course. The cool thing about Jeep is that you can get a Gladiator with a manual, but that's only with the Pentastar. The same goes for the Wrangler. You can only get the Wrangler with the Pentastar manual transmission, but at least you can get those two. And almost every form of Jeep, so you can get all the way to the very top Rubicon version manual transmission, there is an option. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a quick correction. It's just on the 2-door.
Ah,
just
see,
the
that's why I was wondering.
Sorry.
No,
yeah,
that
do
was
that.
my spider sense was tingling. I thought I was okay. So the point is, you could still get that. You can get a Subaru Crosstrek with a manual transmission.
Tacoma.
Yeah, the
Also.
Tacoma you can get with the manual transmission. And I believe you can get several different trims with the Tacoma.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
There's not a lot.
There's really not a lot in terms of off-roading. Unfortunately, a lot of other automakers, including Nissan recently, threw away the manual transmissions and are only sticking to automatic transmissions and CVTs, of course. One of the main reasons why, once again, if 4% of the people are actually buying manual transmissions, That's very few amongst the millions of autos that are built for the United States. So it almost costs more money in some cases to build manual transmissions. It's a little ridiculous. It's a sad
Sorry, I
thing.
screwed up again. I was trying to look that up really quick.
Okay.
Smaller engine on the Bronco comes with the manual in most trims. If you get the 2.7, you cannot get the manual.
Cool. Yeah,
Okay.
so you
So-
can get a 4-door.
Just-
The 2.3 you can get the 4-door, and the 2.3 is their 4-cylinder engine, the weaker of the two powertrains
I'm
that are
having a
available.
case of the Mondays.
No, that's okay, Zach. You are always right, even when you're wrong. You're right because
No, I'm not right. I don't want to be wrong about that.
he's our editor, so we try to please him. And here's an interesting little thing, by the way, before we go on. Do you know, in the United States at least, who the largest purveyors of manual transmissions are? Ready? Mazda and Honda,
Oh,
and then Subaru.
I suppose that makes sense.
Mini used to be, but Mini cut out the manual transmission option in a couple of their cars. So yeah, in terms of popularity, that's what you have. So kind of interesting, kind of sad too at the same
Yeah,
time.
it's very sad.
All right, he loves manual transmissions, and so do I. So it makes him my son from another mother. That doesn't work. Sorry. I
that's
can't
okay.
say brother. You're too young. So let's move on to what happened in Flagstaff. Flagstaff is a fantastic place to have the Overland Expo. Why? Because it is in nature. There are trees around. It's in this really neat fairgrounds location, but it's also, I mean, it's surrounded by, there's mountains there. It's a really nice place to have that expo. They used to have it in a marshy swamp.
Really?
Yeah, it was really bad. One time I sat on horse manure and I didn't realize it. I mean, seriously, I got on the plane and I'm sitting there going, who the hell smells like horse poo?
That was you.
It was me.
Yeah.
And
There you
that's a true story. It was really embarrassing when I got home and my mom was like, why do you smell like horse bucky?
I would say this event was better than the sound of that. What is insane about it is there are so many vehicles there. There were particular tents I was looking for to film certain videos, and I probably in total throughout the day spent 2 or 3 hours just looking for the particular tent that I was trying to find, because there is so much there. Everybody that you can think of that makes off-road parts, yeah, they're pretty much there, and it's really cool to see. There's also a lot of people that are camping on site that
Yes.
have some amazing builds. And
Old stuff too, right?
yeah,
Which is really cool.
definitely old stuff. And the expo event also has a pretty cool little mountain biking course with some jumps and berms and things in it.
Did you hit that?
I did actually.
All right.
So there was this 2-wheel drive electric bike, top speed of 30 miles per hour, video coming tomorrow on TFL Bike. And I rode that into the mountain biking park briefly because I'm sure I wasn't actually allowed to be there, but nobody saw me do it.
Yeah, it's okay.
I rode it over some rocks and over a
Is that the
little dirt
2-wheel drive
hill.
one?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the
two-wheel
white
drive.
one, right?
Yeah.
Yubo?
Yeah, UBCO, UBCO, I think.
I've been wondering about that. So
It was cool.
I'm going to be watching that video. That's coming out tomorrow on Bike, right?
Tomorrow.
TFL Bike. So one of our newest channels, and Alex and this man are really like at the forefront of it, because you don't want a big fat guy like me going off-road on a bike. All right, let's continue on with the whole fairgrounds. So there's this giant area where there normally would be like equestrian events.
Yeah.
And that's one spot where they have like off-roading and a bunch of stuff. And then you have the whole display area, which is massive.
It's mega.
Yeah, and everything you can think of in terms of off-roading is there. And a majority of it has to do with off-road camping in one way or another, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, then you have like ARB and Old Man Emu and all these other suspension setup things, one spot. And so you got all that. And then on top of that, you have this whole other thing where there's bikes, motorcycles. It's like a whole separate thing, but it's right there as well, right?
Yeah, the motorcycles had their own specific area, and the motorcycle area was right next to the food trucks, which was pretty cool.
That's a good thing.
And yeah, there were some interesting bikes there. A couple electric small bikes that I hadn't seen before, the types that are street legal in kind of a scootery type way where you don't really need a full-on riding license, but they're still street legal.
Cool. Did you talk to them?
Yeah, well, so the UBCO bike that the video is coming out on yesterday, I got to not only walk around it, talk to a product expert, and learn all about the bike, but I also got to ride it, like I mentioned, because I rode it through the mountain biking park. And it was really a really amazing event.
If everything goes well, we'll be able to start bringing these vehicles to TFL Studios and do even more stuff with them here in Colorado. The best part is electric vehicles, electric bikes, they're not affected by high altitude, high elevation, I should say. So let's continue and maybe start taking this down. You went and met up with Roman?
No, I didn't.
You didn't even meet up with Roman?
We didn't even have time to because he was filming the TRX on a volcano on Friday.
Right.
And while he was doing that, I was at the expo, so we didn't end up getting to meet.
Now there is a video, a very long one, with Roman that came out on what is that on now? Or sorry,
it's on Off-Road.
TFL Off-Road. So if you go to TFL Off-Road, our channel, you're going to see a 52-minute video there with Roman, and he spotlighted trailers, campers, classic trucks, and all that at the event, and actually walked around a part of the event, not even the whole thing, in 52 minutes. So he narrates that video. I highly recommend watching it. And also we put it up on TFLoffroad.com so you can actually read about it as well. So you didn't get even a chance to meet up with the guys?
No, but again, I mean, if you missed the show and you want to get a feel for what it was like, you can do it from the comfort of your own home by watching Roman's video, or you can read the article that Nathan just put up.
I recommend both, by the way. Okay, so were there any highlights at the event that you wanted to talk about? Because if you think about the millions of things that are there, and I'm not even kidding, it's so hard, especially when you're an off-road freak, which all of us are here at TFL, to really isolate what your favorite thing is. Now, I'm just going to tell you what mine was from the past. It certainly wasn't the Hummer I drove there. What it was a bunch of old Land Cruisers and Land Rovers that had these old style pop-up tents from the 60s and I believe in the late 50s. They would open up sideways, they were clamshell, and they were like multicolor. And when I was there, and this is going back 3 years ago, also before COVID, there were a whole bunch of, there's like 20 of them. And there were all these old ones, and they were in like great shape, and all these guys are hanging out. There's real British guys. You can always tell because they're smoking pipes. Legal pipes, and but they all were set up in this one area. And then if you just turn a little bit, all of a sudden you'll see all these like old Ford Broncos kind of all hanging out in the same spot. It's the coolest thing just to see the people who got there. And usually when you go up to some of these owners, especially the ones with really unique rides, not even the ones participating, they're usually the nicest people, and they'll talk to you about what they've done. And not all of them want to go on camera, but a majority of them don't mind. So it's a really cool event in that way. What stood out for you?
Yeah, I can pick 3 different vehicles that stood out for me. The first being a single cab, new 6.7 Cummins. I mean, it would be the current gen. I don't want to call it a 5th gen.
It would be a Cummins.
It would be a Cummins.
It would be a Cummins, yeah.
He has it tattooed on his back.
Just wait until you hear the rest of it. Because there's another Cummins in my top 3. So there was a single cab 5th gen Cummins, and really cool, all black, had some off-road lights in front of the grill, and a 4-wheel camper on the back that was all built out. And that was pretty badass because I feel like you just don't see a ton of off-road Cummins builds. At least I usually don't out here. It's mostly Toyotas,
right?
Which is also cool. But that one, the way it was built out was pretty badass. And then there was also a 2nd gen Cummins with also a 4-wheel camper on the back, and it had this interesting mount that was hanging a hammock off the front of it because it was a fabrication company.
I think I've seen those. So it's like 2 bars that come out and you have the hammock. You know that we have video of Andre in one of those hammocks. Yeah, that goes back to 3 years ago, actually, at the Overland Expo.
Wow.
I think that might be on TFLnow.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. But we stayed in a teepee. There's a KOA in Flagstaff that actually had teepees. Really cool ones, too.
Okay.
It's more of a yurt than a teepee, to be honest with you. Okay, so you said 2. So what's the number, the 3?
The 3rd was a very clean 80 series Land Cruiser that had these kind of sand-colored steelies on it. It had an awning and a rooftop tent. It was a simple, clean build, not too much junk on it.
And it had a Cummins in it, right?
No, it didn't have a Cummins, actually. I know. Isn't that weird? But it was just a really nice, clean 80 series. I love the 80.
Yeah.
And with those sand-colored steelies, it looked
Was it
really
blue?
great. No, it was kind of a gunmetal gray.
Oh, okay, okay. There was a picture of a blue one that we actually have in the article that Roman, swept by, and he saw this one and he fell in love with it. And it's towing this trailer, and it's a full resto mod, and it's just fantastic. So there's a lot of. It's interesting how many people are taking real money and putting them into classic vehicles, and then turning that into their Overland build.
Yeah.
I actually prefer that in some ways over these new vehicles with the Overland builds, because almost in every case, and I'm quite honest with this, if you add too much crap to it, you're going to ruin it when it comes to a day-to-day commuter. Because how many people actually commute in their Overland vehicles? Quite a few, you'd be surprised. And they're wondering, I wonder why I'm only getting 9 miles per gallon. Well, suddenly you weighs twice as much and all that. But the other side of it is there's some people doing some ingenious things when it comes to hooking up a trailer and taking off and doing it. And that was another thing Roman hit. He actually covered quite a few trailers in this. Did you see any trailers you liked?
The trailer that I liked the most on this entire trip was when we were doing the Overland Trail Tour.
Uh-huh.
There was a Overland cooking chef company.
Uh-huh.
So basically there was a guy and his partner in a Tacoma with a rooftop tent.
Yeah.
And then there was a kitted out 4Runner, at least 35s on it, steel bumpers, and it was towing an off-road trailer that had a cooktop about this wide in it.
Whoa.
And they made the most incredible food. This was a camping trip, but they were making us, Cajun shrimp fajitas, and the dinner on the second night was steak and salmon.
Oh, Lord.
Absolutely ridiculous. So that trailer was my favorite trailer.
I can understand that. Anything that produces really good food makes for a better trip. And that's kind of part of it, is the whole overlanding thing. The reality is that it's an excuse for people to eat way better food away from, prying eyes. At least that's what I do when I go. Okay, so are there any more questions, Zach, that are outstanding before we start winding down?
There's some conversation swirling around Andre and hammock, different kind of hammock. Not really interested in talking about that.
Oh, I just realized where that went. Oh, guys. No, not that, but that's
By
really
the way,
funny.
that's the fault of Dan Atkinson. So
Oh, that's a big surprise.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, thank you very much for joining us. I had a really good time talking to Case. I know you had a hell of an adventure, and here's the best part. There's a bunch of videos that are coming out starring Case. We wanted just to have him on the cover with a little picture of a car next to him, but Roman said no, he wants the car. But there's at least 2 or 3 videos coming out that you've put together.
I filmed 9 videos total.
9?
Yeah, so 2 of them are already
2,
up.
yeah.
There's one going on truck tomorrow.
And one going on bike tomorrow.
Yeah, there's one going on truck tomorrow, one going on bike tomorrow.
Yeah. Now we're hoping we'll get to all of those, or you never know, some of them might be combined. This is TFL. So stay tuned for all of that. That's going to be on truck, on car, on now, on
I even
off-road.
shot a classics video. Actually,
Classics.
Before we wrap up, that is one cool thing. We just had a Land Rover Discovery that was LS swapped on the Classics channel, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I also filmed a Discovery, a 1998 Discovery that was diesel swapped, and the reason that the owner diesel swapped it is because he competed in Camel Trophy back in the day.
Ooh, cool.
And he was the one guiding us on the whole off-road overlanding trip. So that is a very cool video, primarily because he is just a total badass. Definitely tune in for that on Classics coming up fairly soon.
Yeah. Wow. So we have almost every channel covered with all the stuff that that he's produced on this trip. And once again, Roman's got stuff as well.
One more thing we need to mention, people are mentioning it in the comments, and that is our latest TFL truck series.
Yes. So you guys are in for a treat. We worked our butts off and did some ridiculous stuff with $2,500. 3 of us went out and bought 4x4s of some sort. The first
I'm showing yours.
Huh?
I'm showing yours.
Showing mine? Oh, okay. Including my Blazer. Guys, I swear to God, we did not have any communication between us. We went out and bought, bear in mind, I went to 6 different things. Not all of them physically, online, several, but until I found this Blazer. And, we not only had to make sure that these things fell within or under $2,500, They had to run decently. They had to smog, which is coming up, and they had to be safe. So in other words, brakes and all that. So that was, some of those parameters made it very difficult to buy these vehicles. So first episode aired yesterday on Sunday, and that was on TFL Truck. And every Sunday, for a few bucks less, the name of the series, will be on TFL Truck every Sunday for, I believe, throughout October. So you guys are in for a treat. It's a lot of fun. There was a lot of work that went into it. There's a lot of damage. Things happened. I can't get into details. And some of you may have noticed that some of these vehicles had videos that had been produced already way before this series came out. And you'd be absolutely right about that. But in some cases, we were actually shooting those videos while we were shooting this video series as well, which is why you're seeing those videos early. I believe all three vehicles have been featured, the Jeep, the Blazer, and the Mazda Ford. So
yeah, it's always on Classics. We steal your vehicles to shoot with.
Yes. So check it out on TFL Classics. And so
the series is coming up on Trucks, though.
Yes, but on Trucks, this series is coming out every single Sunday, and it's already proven to be very popular. BF Goodrich, they were our sponsor. They put tires on our cars, thank God. And I loved making it. It was really hard to make, and the fact that we were able to put this together and nobody really died or physically
died.
There was minor death. Maybe some heart-stopping things too, but it was a hell of a challenge. Anyway, I recommend watching it. It's for a few bucks less, and then the subtitle is "No Payment Needed." Yeah, so get it? No payment needed. Okay. All right, guys. So thank you once again for joining us. Anything else, Zach, before we wrap?
I think we're good.
Have a great week. Be safe out there, guys. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.